next month.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Well-
Can we adjourn until November?
When they already cut down,
We could all go look at your trees anyway. You could,
I brought pictures so you don't have to look at them.
you could have a party at your house.
Yeah,
Yeah, call Karen, tell them
yeah, tell her,
8 or 9 hours.
I'm bringing 10 over.
Just change the venue.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, we did that at Peter Shields with Herbie Kramer for HPC back in
Yes.
1979, when we did the Peter Shields restaurant. Herbie said, I think we have to have the feel of what's going on. He brought the whole HPC down. I made him lunch on the porch.
Right.
And they approved my awning.
Yeah, I guess so.
I-
Are we ready?
Good news is, it's up and running. Bad news is you gotta start over, okay? Whatever you
Every-
guys discussed,
everything.
if you wouldn't mind just giving a little,
yeah, we didn't do too much.
We didn't,
How
we
about
were,
the opening
Perfect.
and the Pledge of Allegiance and all that stuff?
I would start all over just to be sure, okay, guys?
I got you.
Okay.
Thank you. You can
Okay.
give, a brief synopsis of what was
No,
discussed so
we'll start right over.
far. Okay, thank you.
In
guys.
compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act of 1975, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance. Play ball. All right. Carol, would you do the roll call
Okay, Jay,
here?
George. Here. Sue,
Here.
Barbara,
Here,
Fiore. Here. Carol Sick is excused. Mark,
Here.
Ruth Ann,
Here.
Shane.
And George.
Oh, and George.
And George Ator. All right,
Gotcha.
minutes, have a chance to look at the minutes for Tuesday, September 13th. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Mark,
and I second that.
Barbara, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Are there any abstentions? All right, minutes passed. All right, we have William, or Bill Kurtz of 910 Washington Street today to talk about his couple of Leland cypress trees on the side of his house. We refused to take down approval, or, we would disapprove the takedown. Bill is here to make his case.
okay.
All right.
Well, I guess as I told you before, that doesn't count. But these two trees, I'm assuming have been up for about 40 years. And I had Matt Notch over from Top Notch Tree Care. He, I believe, is certified arborist
Yes.
in town. And we talked about them. I mean, they've been there, I like the trees, but he said they've kind of outlived their life. They were put in probably 40, maybe 50 years ago, and they were put in as some type of privacy barrier for my neighbors, I would think, and for my house as well, because they have, you look right into their dining room, to their kitchen, and, it doesn't bother me, it might bother them. Now, these trees were put up, and they grow very fast, and that's why they use them. But now they're 3 stories high. Last year, during the two snowstorms, they took a massive beating. As you can see by the pictures I brought, there's a lot of dead pine in the middle of the trees. I believe, let me see, I marked them all. They're up against my neighbor's house now, and his insurance company, he just purchased the house. His insurance company is telling him, my trees are too close to his house. Well, they're not too close, they're touching. The branches bend because his house is in the way. So they don't really want to insure him, which I don't think is very fair for them or for him to have this type of harassment from the insurance company because of my trees, if we can resolve the problem. Thank you. As you saw in the pictures, you'll see I took pictures of, even the bottom leaves, the limbs are brown, they're dying. Like Matt said, they've just outlived their life, and they do have a very small root bed, or whatever it's called, system. And I was willing to just trim them. I mean, that's why I called Matt in for, to trim them all the way past their third-floor dormers, which would have given them just two trunks to look at. And it was his idea that he said, I don't think it's very smart to do that because of the root ball system is not very good for having all that wind and these trees up in the air.
You just mean just having a lot of the branches up 2.5 stories tall, right?
Take them all off, yes. So they don't hit my neighbor's house and so they're rubbing against my neighbor's house right now. And his concern is that they'll be top-heavy, and during a storm, if the wind knocked them, they could blow against their house or my house. I'm real concerned about them blowing at my house, because I guess they're about 25 feet away from my house, somewhere like that. And a tree that tall, if it's coming down, it's gonna do damage to my house. They're not that nice of a tree. I mean, if they were something pretty, I'd be here fighting, because I spend a lot of time, and my wife, in our yard, trying to make it look good. We put some other trees in there, some crepe myrtles to dress up. I put a lot of trees in Cape May in the last 40-some years I've lived here, and bushes and flowers. And I understand why we have this commission. I'm willing to put 2 new trees in there.
That's what I was just gonna ask.
Yeah, I'll put them in as soon as, whatever you want. I just don't want to put these in there. Number one, you saw the picture of
Yeah.
my side yard. That's my neighbor's side yard. That's grass. You can't tell it's grass because it's covered with pine needles, because they're very dirty trees. I'd be more than willing to put 2 smaller trees in there.
Deciduous trees.
I would put, I'd put 2 more of these in there, but short ones. And in 40 years from now, I'm not going to be here, and you guys aren't going to be here. We'll let the next generation worry about that.
Well, plant them close to the sidewalk then.
But I would put them closer to my yard, in my yard. These are, I think, right on the property line.
No, I would not recommend planting those again.
No,
First
I-
of all, they're not native species in
Yeah,
the first place.
that's
and
true.
Well-
And they do have a very shallow root system.
They do.
I agree with you with
Yeah,
that. We see
thank
a lot
you.
of them
Jay,
go
tell
over,
him.
so-
Okay, there are no non-native trees. If the tree survives
Right, but-
in the conditions down here, it's a native tree. But anyhow. I know-
Unfortunately,
I know-
and I agree with you, Jay, but after this past winter with those 2 big snowstorms, there's a lot of dead branches on this thing. And I'm assuming that the snow that laid on them, the weight maybe killed the branches. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I'm not arborist, but
But
Matt-
there's no evidence, Matt didn't come up with any evidence of borers or bugs or something like this on
No,
the tree.
no.
Because there was a bunch of them on Broadway, just right by Wilson Avenue. They're beautiful, they're 25 or 30 feet tall, and they form a nice barrier along Broadway. It's, I guess there's Seashore Road.
Yeah.
But nice barrier, and it had 3 of them right at the turn of the corner of the property die all of a sudden.
Yeah.
He's cut them down and put new ones in. They're only about 10 feet high. But they'll grow up to be the other ones, to meet the other ones most likely. But there was no evidence of any borers or bugs and stuff.
not that I could say I did. His concern was them being top-heavy in the wind. Once they pass the 3rd floor of my neighbor's house, they'll take the brunt of the wind, and with a very light root system, they could topple down.
I'd like to speak up because I've actually had that personal experience myself at my home, probably about 4, maybe 5 years or so ago, maybe even more. I had a 40-foot tall pine tree, and a wind came in from the west, which usually it does not, it was unusual.
Yeah.
And the water came up, and the ball of the tree, the roots, literally came right out of the ground, and the whole thing went over on my house. It went from the basement to the roof.
Yeah.
And Ron Manier, who is my tree man, said I was lucky that it was a pine tree, because it would have ripped the house apart. All I had was broken screens because of the pine needles. So I'm aware of those type of things. And this was not even on this was on my neighbor's property line too. It was right along there, but it had to go about at least 25 feet over to my house and landed that way, so.
I know this board, I had one
The wind and the rain situation.
on a house I restored on Queen Street. I had one, when I bought the house, it was there, and it was going into the foundation. That's another concern. it can't hit my foundation, but it sure can hit my neighbor's foundation. I just don't think that's being a good neighbor. Like I said, I will put 2 new trees there, because I like the trees. I mean, you look at between my house and my neighbors surrounding me, front, back, and both sides, we all have trees. I have one, you know how big that maple is out front? That's got 8 trunks to it. It's beautiful. I mean,
All right.
I'm just looking for a little relief. Once again, my concern is these trees coming down on my house. I have grandchildren in my yard. I don't want to see anyone get hurt. I don't want to see my neighbor's property get destroyed. And most of all, I don't want to see my property get destroyed. And, you know, if the city will indemnify me, yeah, I'll leave them there for 100 years. But I just don't want to have that responsibility.
Do we have any more comments?
And you're willing to replace them?
Absolutely.
Any more other comments? Sue, this is your district.
I know, and I remember thinking how wrong the decision was, because, you know, it is clearly on your property, his property line, you share the property.
Yeah,
line.
yes.
It's so close to the guy's house for this,
Yeah.
and I think I said get it trimmed or something, I don't know.
But, and that's what I did, and that's how I found out if we trim it, it'll make it top-heavy, and then I found out the root system isn't as strong as like a maple or an oak or
Yeah,
something.
normally a tree root system will extend out as far as the drip area of the tree. For a big tree like a maple tree means it goes way out. But a tree that's a columnar tree, like a cypress, a Leland cypress or arborvitae, they stay relatively close.
Yeah.
This is why the root ball is smaller. I suggest, since these are still healthy trees, but they're causing a problem, we do two $75 fees for the tree and give them a permit to take the tree down. That's what I suggest.
Do we want to put in something like he's mentioned that?
Well, I'll put it, yeah, I'll put something in there.
Yeah, we'll put a deciduous.
You know, I
If
would
you're worried,
recommend that
if you're
sweet
worried,
magnolia.
if you're worried about pine needles and all that stuff, put a deciduous tree, trees that the leaves fall.
Okay, yeah.
Fall. Put a deciduous trees in, you can put in smaller ones, don't get involved in Bradford pear and stuff like that.
No. And I'll tell you what, I have a really nice crepe myrtle, and these 2 trees are blocking the light. This is the first year, I planted it 5 years ago, that I didn't get any blossoms because there's just not enough light for it to grow anymore, which kind of upset me.
Well, like, in that situation, if that's a shaded area, I like to recommend the Sweet Bay Magnolia, only because they're eco-friendly, the pollinators
Sweet
love them.
Bay
Yeah, Sweet Bay,
Magnolia?
and they're semi-deciduous, like, they will hold their leaves until about the end of December, sometimes January, then they finally do drop. Good shot.
George, what was the name of the tree?
A Sweet Bay Magnolia,
Sweet Bay Magnolia.
I have one on the side of my house, it's very shaded, it's a narrow space.
Thank you.
But it's tall enough that it gives me the screening and privacy,
Yeah.
it's not an invasive tree.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm doing the privacy for
Let
my
me throw another one in there.
Sue, what do you say? What
I
do you
have
think?
neighbors that have got this new thing.
All right.
Come out with single stem crepe myrtles.
Uh-huh.
So the bottom part is just one stem.
One stem, yeah, you just trim them out.
Yeah, you go
And on
to
the
the
top-
Catholic Church here on Ocean Street.
Yeah.
All those trees by the little green lawn along Ocean Street, those are single stem crepe myrtles,
Crepe
right?
Crepe
myrtle.
myrtles, yeah.
But you have to make sure you have enough sun exposure. or you're
But,
not gonna
yeah,
get the
I'm not gonna
blooms.
get the bloom.
And the top part will be just like any crepe myrtle. You'll get the flowers and everything else. And you can trim them back very easily.
Thank you.
Are we in agreement? Two $75 fees for the trees that are viable but are causing problems, and then we'll reverse this and give approval to take the trees down.
Thank you.
All right, a check out to Cape May City, 2 times 75,
$150.
yes, and
Who do I give that to, Nancy? Or-
yeah, give it to Nancy.
Okay.
Do we have
Will
to take a
you-
vote on that, or
Pardon?
is that something we got to vote on?
All right, all those in favor of that solution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Are any abstentions? Okay,
Yeah. Thank you.
go with God.
Thank you, I will. Appreciate your time. You guys do a great job for the city. Really.
We'd had a different opinion if we told them no.
Exactly.
I would have had the same opinion. It would just been louder. See you guys.
All right, all right.
See you, Yogi.
So want me to write on mine approved, and are you going to write on yours approved and give it
Yeah.
to Nancy?
Okay. I don't have a copy of that.
Here it is. It should be in your file. I got,
How do you know it's in my file?
Here,
I don't,
here, you want
did
mine?
he ever fill, oh, whatever.
okay, Bill, come on up.
Thank you.
Should I sit or stand?
Right there is fine. Is that green light on? Yes.
Raise your right hand, just kidding.
Bill is a county engineer involved in the Franklin Street School. I had met with him and the assistant city manager a month ago, or 3 or 4 weeks ago, I guess, which is the same as a month, and discussed the fate of the Leland cypress tree, I'm sorry, the fate of the linden tree in front of the Franklin Street School. I told Bill at that time that I'm not going to make a decision on that tree. It should come before the whole board. He was supposed to be here last month. Fortunately, he wasn't. We did discuss that tree, if you remember, last month, and we were of the opinion, almost unanimous, well, it was unanimous among the members who were here, that we wanted to try to save that
Yes,
tree.
decision.
All right? My feeling is that between your engineering prowess and
You've elevated me, by the way. I'm not an engineer.
you said you were an engineer.
No. I'm the owner's representative for the county. The county
Oh.
hires me to run construction jobs.
Oh, okay. Well, we think there's enough, we are of the opinion that there should be enough engineering prowess and construction ability for the contractor to deliver the concrete to the front of that school without killing that tree. That's what our opinion was.
Can I make a couple
Sure.
comments? Okay, so you went to the trouble back in March and had somebody look at that tree, and I think they started out with a 26 or 27-foot round protection around it. The letter you sent us in March, that they had reduced that protection area to 12.
12 feet, yeah.
Okay. We have about 16 feet from the building to the trunk of the tree. We need to put scaffolding in there. There's no way I can do what we have to do without scaffolding.
Yes, and we understand that.
So I need 10 feet for the scaffolding.
Okay.
And to feed the scaffolding with the heavy materials that you need to work with, we need another 5 feet. So the tree would still be there, but from what I understand, if I shave that tree to within 1 foot of the tree
On the one side.
on the one side, and I disregard your letter, which I'm not saying I'm going to do that, I'm just saying if I did put the scaffolding in, which I have to do to finish the building, I'm going to be inside that 12-foot.
But the scaffolding is not a solid piece. It's just
No, it has, yeah.
legs to stuff.
It has legs,
So it's not going to tamp down on the drip area of that tree between the school and the tree trunk itself.
No, but if I'm feeding the scaffolding with a lull, that will tamp down that area. I'm concerned that 2 years from now, I'm going to make the thing look ugly because it's going to be shaved on one side. And 2 years from now, when I'm gone, you're going to have a dead tree. From what you can't. I'm told, you people know a lot more about trees than I do. You can't shave the whole half of a tree off back to within a foot of the
How
trunk.
much? There are the branches that come, the branches of that tree that come close to the school are relatively small twigs or branches. They're not that.
Well, they start out as large, and they get, you only have 16 feet. I want to take 15 feet off. There's the look from two different sides. Now, granted, you can't see the size of the branches on the school side as well with that picture, but that gives you an idea of the size of them.
Is there
I mean-
scaffolding going to be around the entire building?
Yes, the entire building. We have to reattach all the brick to the school.
You not just repoint,
We're-
not repoint.
We're both repointing and
and-
reattaching.
And reattaching.
What's holding it
How,
back
what's
now?
involved in
Not
reattaching?
much.
What's involved in reattaching?
We have to go in every 2-foot square area and either remove a brick or send something through a brick and attach it to the
Building,
building behind.
just to make sure that the front of it is not, what's behind that? Is it a wood?
Yes.
Okay, so the bricks are against the wood. Okay, and are they bulged out? Is there a point where?
I mean, there's a little bit of that, but the engineers decided that to make the thing safe, they need to reattach it.
All around?
What was holding it before is rotted out.
So what are they gonna do on the inside?
We're doing a lot of work, we're fixing a lot of stuff on the inside, but the intent of a historic renovation is to maintain everything we can of that original building.
Yes, okay. Well, part of the original, it's not an original building, but part of the character of that building is that 75-year-old linden tree.
No argument.
I think it's even older than that.
Pardon?
There's old photos
Think
of
it's
it,
older
and
than
there's
that.
actually a
Remember we
buzz online
discussed that
about the
last
tree.
meeting, that we think it's pretty old.
I have another question while we're talking about the trees on that property. What's happening with the trees also on the side of that property? That would be
On
toward,
the north side.
toward Lafayette Street, yeah.
They're coming down. That's been notified to the town a long time ago.
What's that?
That there's an addition to the library being built right there where those trees are.
Why is it not built on the other side?
There's no space.
What is the addition for? Isn't that just for the eating?
Library space.
It's for the mezzanine area. And if you notice in that, there's a corner that cuts in on that side of the building.
See, that notification was given. There was no
I just
notification
wanted to see
given
how many trees that are.
on the one in the front. And that's why
Yeah,
we're
but the
here.
ones on the
Oh,
side.
I don't remember. Does that, I don't remember any notification of any thing that happened to the trees on the north side of the building.
No, and
We
that's,
weren't consulted on that I know.
that
They
side
already
of the
have
building, there's
construction paper
the,
around these trees, so they're getting ready to
what is
pull
it,
down.
vacuum, or,
On the north
air
side of the
conditioning
building.
units
And
that are on a
Yes.
pad?
And
And
where?
the front.
They're gone.
There's a
They're gone.
construction tape around
We're
it.
building a building.
Where? The ones on the
The one
north
we're
side?
talking about right
That's
now.
going to come
The one
out,
that we're looking at the pictures of.
this mezzanine area gonna come out
They've done a
beyond where they
construction
were?
thing on it.
I mean,
Beyond
they were
where-
looking about
Beyond where the air
8 feet
conditioners
out.
were, roughly, yeah, I don't know exactly, but I think it's 10 feet.
Those linden trees are pretty close to the property
They're
line.
along, they're in the
Right on the
fence.
fence line, yeah.
Yeah, they're right
One
on
in the
fence.
front is in the fence, but there's two big ones in the back
They're all right on
that
the
are
fence.
close. Wouldn't you agree with me? Close to
Yeah.
the property line?
They're right on the fence line, yeah.
That's, I
Yeah.
don't understand how they're gonna build that, make that building that much bigger to go right up to the property line. Have they received the variances for
Those
that
trees are
already?
going?
Took
That
out all
was
the
long
air
before I
conditioning
got
and
involved,
everything out
but
of there.
yeah, we're in for a
Units over
permit.
there along the side are gone.
This, from my understanding, all this has been approved long before I showed up. What was not approved before I showed up
Is the one in front.
is the one in front.
Well, I'd like to save something here.
Well, I don't think that one's gonna be approved, to be honest with you. I don't have a say on this committee, but as a council member, I do have a say, and I can bring it up to the council. We can put people in chains around that tree before it comes down.
You just
Yeah,
spoke
I'd
about
like
a
to, I know I don't want to make life difficult for you, for the county, and the contractor and stuff, but we'd like to have what effort we have to do to try to.
I'm willing to do that.
Why don't we do that?
I'm
And your-
afraid of
Your
it.
offer of putting like a 30-foot tree in replacement is appreciated, but I've not had much luck with putting in a tree of that size and trying to brace the doggone thing that doesn't fall over in 2 years. So I'd rather see if we can't do something with this 75 or more year old tree and, you know, work around it as much as we can.
If that's what you want me to do, that's what I'm gonna
The
do.
scaffolding you spoke of, I believe you said 12 feet?
10.
10 feet, and the tree is 16
Yes,
away from the building?
but I have to
What
feed the
type,
scaffolding.
what type of concrete delivery system are they going to use?
They put this thing when they're doing the repointing, all the mortar goes into a bucket that's about the size of this table.
Like you're doing a firehouse.
Yeah,
What is
and
it?
they put it on the
Like
lull,
Doing the firehouse.
and they lift it up.
Oh, okay.
Why can't they use a concrete pump?
I'm not, because you're doing such little precision work. I mean, it's not a concrete pump situation. It's not, you're not pouring a wall.
I realize that.
So you're just bringing it up, and the masons that are up there are taking out a brick.
Either taking out a brick or going through a brick and repointing the whole
Right,
area.
repointing it,
Okay.
that's what they're doing.
Well, I'd like to go on record saying we'd like to try to
Can-
save,
Can they use like a smaller scaffold instead of 12-foot? Can
No,
you
te-
have
the
like
10
a,
foot, you need enough work for these guys to work
around, to walk.
around. They're used to, it's a safety issue. I
Gotcha.
don't want to put them up there and have somebody fall and say, you know, well, if this has been the lawyer, I can hear the lawyer now. If this scaffolding had been the right size, this accident wouldn't have happened.
gotcha, okay.
That tree can be trimmed.
Oh,
We're willing to do that.
we're willing to do that. I'm just concerned that I'm going to kill it. And I don't
You
want
can
to.
take up to what, about 30% off of a substantial tree
He was worried
without
about taking one
actually.
little side off.
Right, I know,
Yeah.
but I'm saying, that's.
Yeah,
not
and
gonna
this
take
work
much.
is going to start, most likely, it's going to start soon, right?
When I come out of here, I'm going to make a phone call to the general contractor and say, this is the route we're going.
It's a little bit earlier, because the tree is still taking up water and bringing down sugar and stuff like this. When the leaves all fall off, the tree goes dormant, so that type of abuse on the root system isn't going to be that severe when the tree is in dormant, rather.
Well, the
that
closer
we
it
did
gets
this
to
in the middle of
dormant,
summer.
the closer I can't work. In other words, I can't work when it gets into the freezing weather, because the mortar freezes.
Right.
I have
Yeah, but we
kind
don't
of,
get
I
it.
have a kind of question and a suggestion maybe. If the tree was trimmed, the limbs, to give a little bit more, like a couple more feet, is there any way that you could actually kind of cover up the tree, like in some type of a canvas or protection kind of a thing?
That isn't the problem. Well, that isn't the
Well,
problem
it would
with the
protect
tree.
it a little bit, Jamie, when he's talking about destroying the tree. In other words, if they're.
My concern about destroying the tree is
And if-
when I cut it. I'm afraid I'm going to cut so much of it that it's going to die.
Here's what I have a question of, who's gonna actually be doing that trimming of the tree?
We're going to hire a professional to do it. I'm not going to let the carpenters do it.
That's what I'm,
If that's
I mean,
your
it would have to be
concern.
done by a certified arborist, I would think.
And I just want to go on the record, the tree that we were proposing to put in there is a 12-inch caliber linden tree, which is the same exact tree. Now, it's not the 27 inches you have now, but it is a 12-foot tree, and it weighs like 15,000 pounds. It's a big tree.
I'd rather try to say,
Okay.
Yeah, we're
I'd
trying
rather
to
try
keep
to
that
save the
historical,
75-year-old tree that's
something
there.
for so long, that's Cape May's kind of known for and famous for is keeping their trees, protecting them.
Well, after yesterday we had the groundbreaking ceremony for the school.
Yeah, we
the
saw
new
the
library.
pictures.
And I mentioned to a lot of the people that were there that they were talking about moving that tree. And the people that were at that ceremony, we were dead against wanting that to happen, you know? And there is a little buzz online about the tree as well, and how it is significantly historic with the building. And it's a lot how I perceive the community feeling about that tree.
I think the tree was in place when the building.
Yeah, there's a
was
very strong feel, especially for the older generation in Cape May, had very strong feelings about a lot of these things that are happening now today in Cape May. They're concerned that we're going to destroy our historical history. And actually, there's times when things were put on the, what's the name of it, the historic?
HPC.
Register?
Historic Preservation Commission.
Yes, exactly. So I think that's why I'm sure there was that big buzz yesterday. I'm sure it was all
Well,
about very,
we will
very
hire
local
a
community.
professional landscaper to
Certified
treat
Not a
the tree as
landscaper.
carefully as
Certified
possible.
arborist.
Arborist, not a
Certified
landscaper.
Not a landscaper.
Okay.
Landscaper's got a lawnmower.
I got a question about how they're gonna do this brickwork. I've got 2 chimneys on my house. One was repointed, where they actually had those little grinders, and grinded out the mortar in between. And what they used, and I'm talking 4 stories, being the house is 3 stories and it's up off the ground 8 feet. They basically were hauling all this stuff up there with a limited amount of scaffolding, but they did have scaffolding, right? And they're basically bringing things up in 5-gallon buckets with pulleys.
That's a little job, smaller job.
And the guy in the bottom could take and, they almost have these pastry-like bags with tips in there, and they're putting all that fill in the mortar.
How they would do a chimney and how they would do an entire building
Well, that's my question.
are different.
What well, maybe what Mark is alluding to is, what if it were done on a different scale or in that type of manner for this section where this tree is located, and do whatever you're gonna do around the rest of the building? But
We're
just-
basically concerned with the front, because that's where the tree that we want to save is. What you do on the sides and in the back, is really,
I understand that. I'm just concerned, I'm gonna kill the tree. And
Well-
I'm gonna hire a professional guy and let him do it. And you sent me a letter and said, I have to protect 12 feet. I gotta tell you, I'm gonna be inside that 12 feet, not because.
well, with the scaffold legs
Yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
like that. That's immaterial. That won't, I don't think that's.
And I'm not gonna pile material
Right,
inside the 12 feet.
right, and drive trucks and stuff like that.
Well, the only thing that would get anywhere near there is the lull, and I would try to
Well, you
stretch
got-
the lull as far
yeah.
as I can stretch it.
You got a
without
limited
going-
amount of space to the right of the steps.
Yeah.
You've got the steps itself that
So-
you could use for hauling stuff up, and you got to the left of the front of the building to get stuff up. And as I said, what you do on the north side and on the south side and on the west side, you have plenty of room there. If it's already taken, that chain, it's already been approved to remove all those trees on the north side of the building because of the bump out, right?
Yes, right.
Yeah, well, the city didn't submit any plans to us.
No.
They're not required to, I guess. So that's why we didn't see anything on that, so.
All right, well.
All right.
I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Hopefully, we can work this out.
We're
And
gonna
everybody-
try, we're gonna try to work it out the way you want us to work it out, as best we can.
We really appreciate that.
we'll give
Our
it
job,
100% effort.
our job, in addition to planting trees, is to try to protect the old growth of trees that we have in Cape May. So, thank you very much for seeing it that way, and
Keep us posted.
thank you,
I'll keep you posted, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, we got budget and whatnot to work out, and before we get to that, being the far-seeing chairman that I am, I've read a letter concerning this. This is to Lou Belasco, the deputy city manager, from me regarding the Franklin Street School linden tree. The Shade Tree Commission is unanimous in its feelings and desire to preserve the large linden tree front left of the Franklin Street School. The engineers and contractors on the scene should have the technical know-how to protect this 75-year-old healthy tree while delivering concrete to repoint and reattach the brickwork. Would you please make our decision known to the architect, county engineer, and contractors?
I have one question or one comment. What about when we just discussed about having a certified arborist be the one that does the trimming?
I would imagine that almost goes without saying.
Right, but what I'm saying is there a way that we'd be able to know who that is, to make sure it's a certified arborist that's doing this prior to the work being done?
I
You would
think
know.
the last meeting or a couple meetings ago, we had, one problem we had was when we discussed that, we were told that we were, as a commission, not supposed to give, it was for the tree removals. And we weren't supposed to give recommendations.
Well, I'm not giving a
But I was,
recommendation. I
but then
just-
remember, because we said that we were able maybe to make a list?
We
of
would,
who
we would
had,
use Ron Manier,
Or Matt Notch.
or Matt, but Matt Notch has more credentials than
Yeah,
Ron.
I think he
Manier,
does, yes,
okay?
exactly.
But our hired arborist is Mickey Riggin from Arbor Care
Right.
Resources.
Right.
Mickey Riggin costs us a hell of a lot more money to come in and do something like that than we get a.
Yeah, no, I don't care who it is at this point, I'm not recommending one
Well, you wanna
contractor
know who
over
it is.
another.
It's not up to us to hire, yes.
Right, but what I'm saying is if they're a licensed arborist, is there a way that we'd be able to know that, hey, this guy's a licensed arborist that's doing it? 'Cause we just had that correction in the dialogue, where he mentioned about a landscaper, and you corrected him, and you, Sue corrected and said a
Right.
licensed arborist.
Right.
So I'm just saying.
Well, I would imagine the
Safe
county,
to-
I would imagine they would know that to hire a licensed person. I
Well,
mean,
doesn't he have to get a permit to do the work there?
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, I would
Well, we
imagine,
haven't gotten the plans.
And if
though,
so, he
have we?
can check those
no.
credentials.
And I
We
was
haven't
going to
gotten
say
any
there,
plans from the school.
Jay, so, go ahead.
Matt Notch has, I think all of the numbers of any arborists
Right.
should be researched because they need to keep their certification up.
Yes.
They just can't be, and that's it.
It doesn't last
So that sometimes someone may have been an arborist, however, they
No,
haven't
Tulu
kept up
Blasco.
with their.
Oh.
The deputy.
So
chief.
whoever,
Yeah.
whoever
We-
submits
if we
this,
would
we should make
insist on
sure
a
that they're
certified
checked out.
arborist,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whoever it is.
Inspect the
Right.
tree before they, you know,
Really, that's not our,
no?
no, it's not our responsibility to do that.
Go
I've-
back to the fact
Well,
that we
we-
didn't get these
Oh, I
plans.
think it
We
is.
want to
What?
make sure it's done. though.
It's done, yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed out what you said.
What?
Well, I think he should put in the letter that we, as a committee, insist that a certified arborist evaluate the tree.
Yeah.
Maybe before and after this procedure that they're going
Yeah.
to do.
That's a good
I
idea.
think that's a good
Put it in
idea.
the-
Okay,
We want to be notified.
Put it on
Right.
record, yeah.
Or else how would we know?
oh yeah, would you please make our decision known to the architect, county engineer, and contractors? Also, let us know the certified
We also
arborist.
voted that- Or
Right.
else it was a unanimous vote that,
Pardon?
unanimous vote that a certified arborist be the one to do this
To
work.
evaluate the tree.
And we recommend an evaluation prior to and post-construction.
Sue, who is that letter going to?
Does anybody else in the
Going to-
room have chimneys
Who's
that
she
have been
sending that to?
repointed?
No, I don't have a chimney, I took it off.
It's a mason's job. I don't
Glasgow.
see where,
I don't know how to.
if you have
Yep,
10, let's say it's 10 by 10, the scaffolding, which is basically open. You can go in the front and you can go in each side.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't know
I
they were
thought
taking
about
it.
that too, that they
Right.
could make it
Well, maybe.
narrower.
I just
The
didn't like the
reason
no
we didn't
can't,
get
or
any
the can't do
plans, is
attitude.
that
I just
because
didn't like
it's
that at
a
all.
grant to
Right.
the city?
I think, no,
Or
I'm
how
I'm
does
not
that
quite
work?
sure how that works. The city is not required to the city is not required to submit plans to the construction office. That's why we don't get any, we didn't see any plans.
But let me just ask a question or a comment on that. When we had that meeting about 12 South Broadway, we
Oh,
had that
yes,
meeting, you and
yes.
I were here, and our city solicitor was here.
And the city manager was here.
Right. And at that time, we asked that all plans for construction go through all the all the boards,
Yes.
including the Shade Tree Commission.
Yes.
Once again, now, in my district, we had that little quaint, odd-looking cottage on Claghorn Street that was taken down completely, and now they're building a huge, new home there. But my point is, we didn't see any of those plans, and now what's happening is a street tree, a city tree, has to come down, because that's where the driveway's going. Had we seen those plans
We would have
prior
said
to,
no.
We would have said, move the driveway off to the side, or whatever like that. Once again, we didn't see any of those plans, so it's a,
I'd
Well-
like to add something to that, too. I was thinking about that right before this subject was brought up. When I'm reading the Star and Wave or the Herald, I read many articles about the fact that the Environmental Commission gets all of these different plans and situations, and they were the ones who add and get approval. We never even are notified about it. I think it's a really disrespect.
It is.
For the Shade Tree Commission, the Environmental Commission seems to have all the control. We get no notification.
was
No
told-
nothing, no plans, anything. And I'm gonna bring in an article the next time I read it, to read what it says, because it's right in
well, I
black
was
and
told,
white
when I
there.
first called about that issue on 12 South Broadway, which that's done and over with, but I was told that the HPC is the gold standard, and as long as they approve something,
What do they have to do
Right.
with swimming pools?
Exactly.
And basically, that tree now is that double trunk
that's gone.
pine tree is gone. I don't see any holes being dug for a swimming pool in there.
But
And
isn't there a rule where if it gets been presented to the zoning or planning board, and they approve the plan, and part of the plan includes whether putting a building where a tree is, or a driveway where a tree is, they have the right to approve that without, or permission, isn't that correct?
No, we're
I
supposed to
think we're
get the
supposed to be
plans.
consulted on that. If a variance of any sort is required on the property, we should get a copy of those plans. And if we see that there's driveways coming in where a street, particularly a street tree, private property tree, a little bit in doubt, but a street tree, we should be able to say,
They
move
shouldn't
the
be
damn
able-
driveway.
They shouldn't be able to move forward until the
We
shade
we
tree
sign off on it.
signs off on it.
I mean,
Same
it's
with
not
the
like,
environmental.
it's not like
We
we're
have a
trying to hold up,
Form that we
Yeah.
get from the building department
we get from,
along with the plans. And then we go look at the property and find out where trees are and don't, you know, where the addition of the house is supposed to be and all that kind of stuff.
So you're on the
And
environmental
then we
commission?
send back
too?
the form to the,
I don't think the
To where they-
environmental
the planning
commission
board.
and stuff like that
Whether
is
we
on that,
approve it or
is
not.
on that list.
Okay.
based
we
on
are.
the trees on the property and, you know, how, you know. things
I
like-
recently received, as Jay knows, Yacht Avenue is going to be 7 townhouses on one side and 4 on the other. It doesn't involve city trees, however, on the one side, on the left-hand side, facing the harbor, 15 trees are going to be removed from that property. And of course, the building permits have already, everything's been passed.
Yeah,
Well, we can
And-
recommend that the builder.
They're gonna but every plan also has to submit the landscaping. And on the landscaping plan so far that I've received, they're replacing all of those 15 trees with other 15 trees. But, you know, by the time we get it, all that's already been approved.
And that's an issue. And the other issue is what you're referring to with the landscape plans and all. We don't have a way to oversee that they follow through with those landscape plans. They did condos across the street from me, and they said they were gonna plant 2 trees because they took trees out. Well, they did. They put the serviceberry trees in. Those trees, they trimmed them like a shrub.
They
They're
what?
4.5 feet tall. They keep them trimmed like shrubs. I said, that's not a tree. So then I had a maple planted on the street there, but that's beside the point. There's no way for us to really, I don't know who could possibly enforce those, you know, landscape plans. I don't know if that would be code enforcement or,
I think once the plans get approved, the construction gets underway, it's the
Buildings.
building department down there that does those plans. I know that what do you call
Well,
it? The,
I wrote down,
No, they've hired a,
Occupancy should be,
who?
if they're have to get a certificate of occupancy, that everything's gotta be signed off.
okay, these,
from the construction office. But the HPC has an inspector. They've hired an inspector. It's not a volunteer position. He's getting paid, yeah, in that office there. And he goes around and makes sure that the people are doing the stuff that was approved by the Historic District Commission, so.
well, I actually wrote down, because of the landscape plan, exactly what they said they were going to do, with hopes that I would be able to go back out and search that.
Yeah.
They're doing like 3 dogwoods, a holly, 2 crepe myrtles, gray birches, inkberries, which I'm not really familiar with an inkberry
The
is.
dogwood, they're gonna have a heck of a time with there along that harbor.
Well, yeah, and that's got water on it.
And-
There's 2 sides of it, or 3
Yeah,
sides of it, right?
But
What
I,
trees are there now? Do you know what they are? Are they mostly cedar?
mostly maples and things that are in there now. They're
Are they-
nice, they're
are they
nice
maples?
trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're nice trees, but they're gonna put underground parking and, you know, access into there and,
And right there at probably the second busiest intersection in the whole town.
Yeah.
And they're gonna put up townhouses.
And it floods all the
And
time.
it floods.
Over on Yacht
yeah,
Avenue.
and they're increasing the dock area from
Gonna be like a
17
ghetto.
slips to 20.
Well,
So even with that, you're gonna have more
Yeah.
Bad now.
parking.
You know, while we're talking about all
Yeah.
this construction, I'm sorry.
Just one thing I'd like to throw in there. I remember one time there was a property down off of Pittsburgh, and the whole thing was going to be demolished. And the submission that I had as far as the construction and everything, they had, the person going to, do the work, they had pictures of all the trees all around the whole property with, either check for green or a red X on them. And it's almost like, how many of these properties we look at, and of course, they're X's and O's. Some, they actually put a landscaping plan saying what trees will be put in
Right.
after everything is already up. But other ones, I mean, you go around some of these houses, and you look at them, and now the house is all built, and you try to remember, were there any trees there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because there are none,
right.
you know?
Yeah, they don't.
They build out on the,
Well,
on the
it's,
lot from both
this
sides.
is why we have to keep chasing some of these contractors down and look at these plants, because we've got a couple of contractors that clear cut. They get in there and they cut every green thing out of that property, and then they put a nice landscaping plan in. But again, our objective is to try to save the old growth of trees, rather than just encourage people to put new trees in. I mean, an old growth tree does a lot more than twigs that are put in. It's gonna take 15 or 20 years
If
to,
they survive.
to provide any grace and beauty. Anyhow, I'll see if I can't figure this, I'll see if I can't figure this letter to get, but it's really none of our business. They should know enough to hire a certified arborist to do
What you
this.
think people should know and what they know are
Yeah.
two different things.
Well, anyhow, let's move on. We've got the budget. We should have an accounting in there, the budget. It's your last item in the thing, shade tree budget. And it's self-explanatory. On the right-hand side is the changes.
Is this the new budget request?
Yes, we
Okay.
got to get it in. We'll get to Nancy today so it can be put in because it's due next month. I want to get it done now.
Oh,
Roll
okay.
call over you.
So we're requesting an increase of $6,800 for the total
This to Nancy.
increase. That's total on the thing, but inside is increased sidewalk repair, 50/50 grant by $5,000. Was $15,000, and we'd like to get that on the budget, in the budget at $20,000. That's our portion of it. As you know, last month, we rolled over on that gentleman from, I think it was I believe it was Ohio Avenue, that didn't quite meet the whole
Did the job and
timetable
then wanted to
schedule.
get paid, right?
But yeah, no, we put $600 worth of sidewalk in. We kicked him back $300 because we determined it. He tried to do the letter of the law.
Yeah.
But we're again resolute, and we're holding that 2 quotes before construction starts. And we get a chance to talk, maybe with the contractor, put a note on the thing about protecting tree roots and whatnot before they can go in. Anybody had any questions on the budget as presented?
I do.
Yeah, go.
Can we look at the last page where it has the increase of 5,000 line?
Yes.
Now, if you look to the left of the $20,000, you have a 15,000, and below that you have a 10,882. If you look at the very top of the column, it has appropriated amount and actual amount, or approved amount, what am I looking at here?
Yes, you had a fifth, we're increasing that from $5,000.
Approved actual.
Yeah, so we actually got 15,000 for this year?
As far as I know.
Okay,
That was
making sure.
approved,
But we didn't use it.
and we haven't used it all. Not this year, but the year before that, we ate all that up.
And then some. And then some.
And then some, yeah. I mean, we're able to take, in November, you can take money out of other areas of the budget and drop it into,
Yeah, transfer.
drop it into there, and that's how we got away with it, I believe. Because we had underfunded, we had overfunded some of the other parts of the
And what
budget.
do we know what we have left for tree planting, fall tree planting? Because that's gonna be coming up the end of this month, beginning of November. And we have a lot of.
I don't know where that is on, I don't know where that is on there.
That's when we
I
switch
mean, this is for
around.
next year, but I'm just curious if we know how much
Well,
is left.
this one, it says here, increase due to excessive maintenance, removal, planting, and storm damage.
Yeah, that's
2,000.
probably on the bottom of the first page.
Yeah, it is.
This is tree maintenance service, I think it's in there.
Yeah, removal planting.
Well, I'm asking about for this fall.
Yeah, go ahead.
We do have enough.
Yeah, I think we got enough, we can move around to go.
We didn't do a spring planting.
No, we didn't do any spring planting?
No.
All right, let's go.
What do we want to do? go ahead, I guess we have to finish the budget work first. If anybody has questions or whatever.
Go ahead, what?
What do we want to do about Cape Rock? They like the black pine. We got them 2 black pine, they didn't last. They-
I had a question on that, because I went down there. I took a look at the trees, same thing, that needle blight. They put them in the same holes. I wrote them a letter saying, this is the problem, and you can't plant these type trees where we've had this disease problem. Now, there are trees that survive that.
Yeah,
I recommended, and we talked about it, that they, if they're gonna plant something there again, they go with deciduous trees, get away from the pines.
well, the other problem with the pines there was they didn't have any kind of watering system. So those pines, one came right out of the ground,
Yeah?
storm and all that. So I don't know what we're gonna do about as far as, you know.
But we did put those new ones in there.
We put 2
Okay.
in last year. They were beautiful. when they
Right.
came in, but they didn't.
Oh, they're standing there and got the stakes there, and they're brown as anything.
Brown,
But, you know, first of all, I have a correction to this, on the top cover sheet, tree removal permits, the 215 Windsor, that's my district, and when Matt Notch submitted, he sent me photographs. The tree that they were questioning, even though the canopy looked healthy, it was rotted at the base, and the back part of it had split. So then I called Nancy and I said, give him, you know, the permission, so that was approved then, to remove the 1 tree
Okay.
on 215. It was a pear, Bradford pear.
Well, by and by, in the fullness of time, we're ridding ourselves of these Bradford pear
Which is a good
by the natural
And
attrition.
I think the other problematic tree, in my opinion, is the Leyland cypress. That's why I'm looking at the letter here to the city manager where they're gonna be removing those trees.
What kind of barrier tree would you suggest?
I would go with the red cedar, eastern red cedar, or even the arborvitae. They get a lot of problems with the salt spray. Now, over there, you shouldn't get the
You
salt
shouldn't get
spray.
any salt
No.
spray there.
But I don't like Leyland cypress. I mean, I've seen too many of them fall over, and then they get, you know,
Well, you don't get, well, I can't say you don't get any wind there, because you do get wind there.
yeah.
But those trees were, what did we determine? Carol's not here. What kind of trees did we determine those were along that,
They're not taking the ones off along the perimeter.
where?
From what I understand, they're taking in the interior of the parking lot, isn't that right?
No,
Oh, no, wow.
no, they're gone.
Oyster
You
Bay?
got, you're talking about the railroad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cut down on
You got the railroad building, you got the 2 tracks, and then you have a small area there, and then you had a line of trees which separated that area from the parking lot of the
Oyster Bay.
restaurant, okay? They've taken all the trees out except the ones that are against the restaurant building, and I think the one that's on Lafayette.
They're all gone.
Pardon?
They're all gone.
Which ones are
All
gone?
of
Even
them.
against the building?
The black pine trees?
Yeah.
They're all gone.
What black pine trees? Were there
The
black
ones
pine?
that- Right there along the building?
They weren't black
Oyster
pine.
Bay?
No, those were other type. They weren't all
Oh,
pine trees.
Well, they're all gone.
Well, they're all gone, yeah. But they're supposed to leave the 3 against the building and the one on Lafayette Street.
They're all gone.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the pine trees are,
Well, they're gonna do that, and that's why I suggested in the letter that they put some sort of a barrier in there. But the assistant deputy manager, city manager said they needed to have that extra space in there to be able to put cars in there, head in. Not parallel parking, but head in to get the extra spots. And they were gonna blacktop that area up to and including the railroad tracks, but not bury the rails. They're not gonna bury the rails. The rails will still be
stay
there, that in the fullness of time, and if it ever happens, and the icebergs melt, and they bring the train back into Cape May,
Yeah.
they still can pull in there.
Right.
I mean, you know, the cars will have to flee for their lives, but the railroad train can still come in. What the pedal railroad is gonna do now, because that space will be taken up with cars parked in there, they're gonna have to move north along that area to put their you know, to put their input.
Revolution Railroad, huh?
Well, anyhow, budget request. You have any more questions on this? Are we in agreement that the budget is okay as presented? Do we need to take a vote on this?
Yeah, we got to vote on this, right?
Pardon?
We have to vote on this, right?
Okay. I'll assume that I'll call for approval of the budget as presented for 2023.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Sue,
I'll second.
second by Mark. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Okay, now, we got one other thing to do.
Let's schedule meeting dates for subcommittee.
Okay, get a hold of Nancy and have her track down the number of people we're supposed to have on it. You, me, Carol Sick, and who else?
Me.
And George. Yeah, we didn't want to have 15 people on this thing, and we can't have more than 3 regular members, otherwise it's a quorum, and we'd have to meet the meeting.
Right.
Although you're our representative, you're not a regular member, Shane.
Right.
Okay, all right.
But and I asked Nancy to put that on because I think we formed this committee or said we were on it, and then that's all we did. So I think
What's a good time for you folks?
I can do anything.
Good day for you? Want to do next Tuesday?
What?
Want to work Tuesday at 2 o'clock, or
I can't do next Tuesday.
whatever you want?
I can do, is it Tuesday's the best?
I'm free, you let me know.
Okay. I mean,
I'm
I'm
available
just not gonna
any-
be in town next week. I'll be back on the 22nd, and I'll be here until the end of,
And Carol's going to
October.
Greece from October 18th for 2 weeks or 10 days at least.
What's the subcommittee for?
To work on
Yeah.
the
Work on the
Ordinances and-
ordinance.
The ordinance.
ordinance
Oh.
and applications and things like that.
yeah. And I think we need to, because and again, I'm going back to that house on Claghorn Street. I called code enforcement and I said there's 2 street trees, one's supposed to come down, but the other's a large locust. There's no construction barrier around those trees.
Right.
And he was very nice, he went over and he took a look, and then I said, you know, like West Cape May has those barriers that they put up.
And they don't use a mesh barrier.
Right,
They use
actually
solid
Wood,
piece of wood.
plywood, they form a
or
plywood square.
particle board.
And, but anyway, he called me back and said, I looked through every ordinance, and you don't have that as part of your ordinance.
I thought
Great
it
idea.
part of the, I thought, we don't have it in the shade tree ordinance, but as far as the uniform construction code, they require it down there.
He said it was nowhere, but I
Well,
don't know, but
we'll
this
make
is
sure we
something else
put
we need
that,
to
we'll
work
make sure
on
we
too.
talk about that in, as part of
But
the
are we gonna be
shade.
able to meet if Carol's away?
Pardon?
Are we gonna be able to have a meeting of the subcommittee
We
if
can
Carol's
start,
away?
we can start, we can do
Okay.
some of it. We just can't finalize anything until Carol
Right.
comes in as approving thing.
So can we figure something for the
Yeah.
following week?
Yeah,
Like I
after
said-
the 22nd, we'll get together.
Okay, so should we come up with a date now?
We could do that. We could do it after the meeting's over.
Okay, that's fine.
And then, just a little update, after our last meeting, I went to the construction office, because we were talking about sidewalk repairs and things like that, and I talked to the official down there, and they said that we could probably do a piece of paper that we can attach to any applications for cement work to, remind the homeowner that they need to, take care of the root system of the trees, and to also remind them if they want to get, or be a part of the 50/50 program, they have to get 2 quotes.
Yes.
So
And they have to submit
he
them
said he can
to the
attach
state.
that to the application just
Yeah,
to make sure.
and they have to submit that to the shade tree office.
Right.
When they're, with the yeah, okay, all right.
Now, I have a question about something
it?
else altogether.
Jack Victor, but
All that hardscape that went in at Elaine's, I mean, there's no green space left, just a tree.
I talked to, what's his name? It's Shirley?
Patrick,
Patrick. I talked to Patrick the other day, and he said, no, they raised the soil up. They didn't take out any roots
Lanes.
Now, raising the soil up,
Go into a lane.
Yeah.
raising the soil up
Yes.
They put-
is not the same as not affecting the roots. I mean,
Right.
you know, you're still, those
changing
roots,
the
those roots
topography.
are pretty sensitive. So I told them, said, watch for dieback. I said, I can guarantee you on that big tree that remains, you're gonna get some dieback on that tree with
mean,
all
that
that,
whole place is
all that
hard
rocks, yeah, because he's, at Elaine's, they've taken that whole front of that thing. We had that,
Not just the front, they did it on the sides.
Sides, too.
There's nothing left but a couple trees. and-
yeah, well, they're putting a big,
I'm surprised they were allowed all that lot coverage.
It was suggested for them to do it by the city.
it was what?
After the accident,
Yeah, because,
The tree?
the city
Yeah.
requested them to put up that wall.
yeah, it was
I'm not
because
talking
that
about the
woman
wall, I'm
died.
talking about the pad, the concrete slabs that are all on the ground now. I'm just saying, I think that's gonna have. a
Yeah,
big
I
impact
told
on
Patrick,
those trees.
I told Patrick that watch for dieback on that tree. In 1 or 2 years, he's gonna see it. So, yeah, it was unfortunate, they lost that tree closest to the,
Oh, that big linden, that's.
that
a
big
couple years
linden
ago,
tree,
yeah,
you lost that.
that's
But at least its memory remains out on Sunset Boulevard at the intersection of
Oh, that's right.
621. They've got 10-foot section of that tree, bolted down to a concrete pad, and somebody came in, a wood sculptor came in and did sculptures of all kinds of wildlife and whatnot on that tree, including an eagle and osprey. Go down that way, it's on the right as you're going out Sunset Boulevard, you'll see it. And they've put preservative on it, and it's brown now, they've got, all the bark off.
Yeah.
And it's a brown color now, and it seems to be holding up pretty well. But that's the remnant of that tree.
If you look to the right of the Elaine's buildings, or the building, the right section used to be on the corner of Broad and Elmira Street.
Yeah.
And they moved it, and there's two enormous trees there. Somehow they were able to just pivot the
Yeah.
house.
Right.
I think they brought it in from the back.
No, you brought it in pieces.
Did they bring it? I thought it was the whole thing.
Yeah, I think they brought it through the back.
Okay.
There was a bigger open
Yeah,
space
but
through
it's
their
right
parking
there
lot.
with the,
They came in that way.
The two ginkgo trees are right up against the house,
Right.
basically, and they survived.
Reassemble.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, that's amazing that they did. That's
Okay,
Jay, I have a question.
go ahead.
I was asked to look at a tree at 1252 Illinois. There's a huge street tree there, and it's right by a power pole, and evidently it's got a light on the top that's broken. The homeowner called Atlantic City Electric, and they said they can't repair the tree, they can't repair the light because the tree is in the way. And they can't trim the tree because it's by the power lines. And of course, the city can't trim the tree because the tree branches are by the power lines. I thought Atlantic City trimmed the trees that were near power lines.
Contract that out, they get, yeah.
Usually if it's a dicey situation, we call Atlantic Electric.
Right,
And if they can't do it, I don't know.
They've
Does
had
it?
Asplund,
Pardon?
Asplund does.
Asplund.
Oh.
but is it Atlantic City Electric responsible?
Well, Atlantic City Electric uses Asplund, but you can't call Asplund directly and ask them to do it. They're under contract with
Right.
Atlantic City Electric.
But I would think
no,
that's
they-
Atlantic City.
It doesn't seem to bother them from trimming trees all
Well,
throughout town.
They did a horrible job trimming my oak trees, but they can't touch this maple tree. I don't understand. So I'll just call Atlantic City Electric and see,
I can get you their representative, Ronnie Towns. I can get you her
Ronnie Towns,
contact.
okay.
She's the customer service relations,
Yes,
Or-
she's pretty good, Ronnie Town, Veronica Towns, call her Veronica, I don't call her Ronnie, Veronica Towns. And she's pretty much involved with this thing going up here on Elmira Street.
Okay.
And, I don't envy her that job because the neighbors are all up every time somebody uses an electric drill or something over there. They call the neighbors, says, "It's disrupting my home life and stuff, But that building, when it looks nice, it looks like an apartment building there.
It does. You did a nice job.
All right, that's all I got.
I got one little one.
Yeah.
I went and looked at a thing yesterday, 1039 Maryland.
You're gonna,
They wanted to take
and
a
give it to,
longleaf pine
So I put this for Nancy.
off the front of their property, on their property in front of the house. And they weren't home, and the neighbor comes over to explain it to me. Now, it's a perfect example of, I think, of someone wants to get rid of a tree, and they'll tell you anything.
Yep.
Because they had a front, let's say, not really a porch, only, relatively short. And he's telling me, oh, they want to extend the porch out, and the tree might probably be in the way, and they'd have to cut roots, because they want to put a cement pad underneath it, and all kinds of stuff. So I denied the removal. First of all, I don't believe the neighbor.
That's your reason.
oh, yeah.
Well, he can say anything he wants. It's the owner's house. But it was a typical thing where, the tree was not diseased, it wasn't dying. It's maybe about a 12-inch tree. It goes up. You can see where upper branches, maybe 10 feet up, or maybe 5 and 6 feet away from the trunk, they just lopped them off. They were heading towards the house. So they made it look bad, really.
Yeah, that's not the tree's fault.
No.
Whoever trimmed the damn tree.
Yep.
I had a tree on Missouri that the owner said the tree was dying and it was dropping branches. And it's the most beautiful looking tree you'd ever want to see. I don't know. Denied. So what do? They just don't want trees. I had one homeowner say, well, it loses its leaves.
At least it's a what?
It loses its leaves.
You should have told her to glue them back on.
The shade tree will be happy to show up some Sunday,
And glue.
Saturday afternoon when you're trying to have a party with glue. And have super glue. Can we use your electricity? Because I'm a super glue gun.
Well, sometimes I think, like we deal with the state organizations or anything, if they have a pamphlet that we could get, the benefits of trees,
All right.
Well, I did present.
do a
What?
I did
good-sized
gather
mailing.
some pamphlets like that from West Cape made from the Borough Hall. They had.
Yes.
And I gave them to Nancy, and she researched as to how much it would cost. So that could be something we think about in the next meeting. She probably still has them. She's gone, I think, for the day.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's good to have
Call her,
some PR
call
like
her a
that,
reminder to
you know?
call her a reminder to put that on the agenda for the next
Okay.
week. All right.
Well, maybe the shade tree meeting would have something, the commission.
They have, yes, they do. As if I'm up there, if we're up there, we'll take a look at some of the booths on the outside. Sometimes they have these little things, appropriate trees,
Or
various
ask-
things like this.
Zapsy, whatever her name
And,
is.
yeah,
Pam Zapsy.
If we go back to when we had the core training,
yeah.
there's stuff in there. It's just sitting in there.
Yeah.
Okay, boys and girls. That it? Good meeting? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mark.
Second.
Second by Fiore. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, turn off your microphones, boys and girls. Thank you very much.